Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Alex or ASMR, and today I am downstairs in the main area because it is very hot upstairs and we're having some electricity problems. It's a mess. Okay, I've just moved my camera really quick. The problems of tech and all that is maybe fitting with the topic for this video. I wanted to talk about manifesting weirdly in front of other people, and to do that I also want to tell you about the worst thing that anybody has ever said to me. And this won't be a heavy video because the worst thing that anyone's ever said to me is not that bad. And in fact, this person probably wouldn't even remember saying this to me, but it is the worst thing that anyone has ever said to me for very specific reasons. So I just wanted to talk about that. But this video should be relaxing and not stressful because I think ultimately it's positive. There's a positive message in this because I feel strongly now that you have to be very nice to oneself. But anyway, I was inspired to make this because in my last video I talked about my tattoos and what they mean, and essentially that my tattoos are representative of using existential courage or harnessing existential courage to essentially, grow the heck up, which I was not doing. And I was really enjoying being in my bedroom and collecting toys and watching videos, and I was under-socialized, and something was going on. Just something deeply isolating was going on. And I got an interesting comment of someone saying that they haven't been able to do that yet. And that reminded me of some memories, because it's important to say that when I moved out of the home and I went to go do life, I used the cultural image of what individuation or the journey looks like in modernity. So my parents never asked me to get a job, and looking back, I've worked, whether it was summer jobs. I worked at every university I attended, and I transferred, so I attended a few, and I worked in a warehouse. My parents never asked me to go work in a warehouse, and yet I did. I'm a mystery to myself, which will be a major point in this video. When I chose to grow up, there was a period when I was graduated and I wasn't working, and I realized I was just kind of lost, so I got a teaching job. Now, I also chose to go to graduate school, and now I'm in life-altering debt. So you see, I chose to do things that they felt right, they were available. I was able to rely on the cultural pathway and the cultural image of what change for a young person looks like. And I have no regrets, but it's important to note that there are a million paths forward out of something, a place you don't want to be, and into a place of existential courage. So it's whatever that looks like to people. But I bring all this up to say that I have been surprised at how I have manifested in front of other people since leaving home. I didn't really have expectations as to what was going to happen to me when I left home, and I decided to stop watching Silent Hill Let's Plays or Dead Space Let's Plays, that kind of thing, Resident Evil, and stop collecting toys and going out and doing art. I didn't know what was going to happen. But you know those sayings like, you can take the girl out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the girl, or something like that? Dead true. Because I had no idea what my chaotic social performances meant until now. I'm older and time has passed, and I look back on the wild flailing to I was just like at a buffet for the first time. Do you know what I mean? And I had a bit of a delayed experience, probably. I'm sure people do this when they go to undergrad. I did not ever get that. I was zipped all the way to the top. Walls very high. I didn't do a lot of crazy stuff. I didn't get up to things. And then very quickly I lived at home while I did college, and I commuted back and forth. So I didn't have that college experience. So really, in my 20s as an adult, like something late, like 25 or something, that was, 24, 25, that was my adolescence. And it was delayed and chaotic, and I had no idea how I was coming across to anyone until someone said the worst thing that they've ever said to me. Now, some people have said mean things to me, like on the internet. It's pretty rare, but when I get them, it's clearly like it's somebody's best guess as to what would upset me. So someone will say, "Oh, you look like a boy." Okay, and I just delete that. And like when I was really young, people would make fun of my glasses. So people give this attempt based on what they think will make you feel bad, and they tend to get it wrong. But for some reason, in one very specific moment, somebody got it really right, and they said something that hit straight to the insecurity that had been unnamed since until that moment. This was when I had left home. I'd gone to college, and I was in grad school, and I was at a potluck. Everyone had brought things to share, and it was packed and busy, and people were socializing. And at the time, I was single, and I was looking, and I was curious about somebody that I had seen and talked to in passing, but I didn't know if she was queer or not. I had no idea. Although I caught a bit of a vibe. So, anyway, I walked up to somebody that I knew, who I thought knew her, this person that I was curious about. And so I asked her. We were both at this table where the food was, and she was getting food, and she was kind of distracted. There was a lot of people around. She was kind of looking at things, holding her plate, like putting little cubes of cheese on it. And I said, "Hey, do you know that person?" Because I was wondering, do you know if she is into women or anything like that? And this person, who we didn't know each other very well, we're more like acquaintances, she was kind of mindlessly looking at the food, and some cheese fell off her plate, and she was just trying to get her bearings, so she very mindlessly said, "Oh, I don't know. I think so. I know that she had a boyfriend for a long time, but he was like you, so, he was kind of a weird little..." And then she didn't finish her sentence. It just trailed off, and She got some more food. I think she moved on to another thought. But my mind became instantly snagged on that. He was like you, a weird little ... Nothing. Unfinishable. Just a weird little... I moved on. That launched in me for days and weeks and months, and to this day I remember it, because that revealed, it was like a beam of light through the clouds. It revealed my own deepest insecurity, and it wasn't that the way I look, it wasn't my glasses, it wasn't my intelligence. The deepest insecurity I've had is that there's something about me, my aura, my vibe, that is just a YouTube bedroom dwelling weird little ... No angles, no complexity, no depth, no gravity, that I'm just unimpressionable, a kind of nothingness and invisibility. And it hit to my insecurity at the lack of romantic experiences I had had, the lack of people interested in me, the kind of queer, delayed, adolescent thing. It hit at me not having anything to show for myself, no portfolio, nothing to say, a kind of frustrated, pent-up being that had not been mirrored by the other, not been affirmed by society, abstract potential that had not been manifested into anything interesting. That was my worst insecurity, and probably somewhere inside me is and drives some of my behaviors. But so that blew me open, because she told me her perception of me in a distracted state, probably her most honest. She wasn't even thinking. And her take on me, as that sentence confirmed, I was trying to perform my way out of that, of anyone ever perceiving me as that. So I was performing a lot. And some of that performance is my best, shiniest self, which is quite exuberant, quite friendly, and quite interesting. But some of it was definitely just chaotic and mindless and whatever. Now, a similar thing applies to filming ASMR. And I remember when I was filming early on, and I would even film clips and I would do skits and stuff, like for Instagram or things. When I would watch myself back, there are things that I would be bothered by. And I thought, oh no. I thought, well, surely my small town shelteredness has become ingrained on a neurological, muscular skeletal level. And now I have a weird way about me. And there was something about, touching my face a lot, or kind of pushing up my glasses, or just kind of, doing weird little twitches and habits and stuff that I thought, what the heck is that? Why is there not even a calmness in my body? There's something going on here. And as time has passed, I've gotten a bit older, some of that stuff has calmed down, the nonverbal. And some of it hasn't. And I think that probably there is going to be qualities about me that the deep elements, the elements of loving toys and YouTube and being a bit sensitive and being a bit, exuberant and childlike in the way that I view the world and how excited I get about the world, those things are going to manifest. They're going to manifest in front of people. And in an insecure state, they might manifest a bit oddly. And if I'm allowing the room to regulate me, which sometimes I would be shut down, and sometimes I'd be very on, then I might manifest a bit weirdly in front of other people. Now, there's that level of it where I might always manifest like that for some people, and I will mirror somebody eventually and they won't like what they see. And I find that can happen where somebody just embodies a kind of non-specific, vague atmosphere that bothers you. And I find that you live long enough and you meet enough people, there's always someone that they just happen to reflect something in you enough to where you want to avoid them, or they, something about it is cringe or something like that. And for other people, I might be that. But there was no sense trying to draw a box or boxes around these particular things, some concept of particular things about me that needed to be changed. And change has happened like a climate or like anything that regulates. So I was actually thinking the other day, I was reading a book that mentioned the engineering of ovens and about how a lot of ovens have a sensor where the heat rises and the pressure builds, and to a certain degree then it shuts off. So once it gets below a certain temperature again, it comes back on. So you maintain this idea of 200 degree oven, and it's not 200 degrees, it's a little bit above, a little bit below. And you find that flow of the pendulum swing this way and this way in order to reach a general state of homeostasis that is imperfectible. It's just imperfectible. And you do it by degrees, and sometimes you go this way and slam against a wall, someone's impression of you, or you do something really stupid, and you swing all the way this way, and you have a high, and you realize, oh, that's my best self, But what I learned from going out in the world is that I may have, left the house, I may have gone out to go on a big adventure, but that it does require some self-kindness and self-compassion. And I was really leaning on the approval of these external structures, and I went a little nuts. That's totally normal and totally fine, because you get weathered, and as you build that internal metrics, you've built that internal kindness, which is essentially just trust in yourself and love. You trust yourself to find that homeostasis, and you love yourself enough to say that you are worthy of love and attention and these kind of things. Once those are in place, that's that real individuation. That's when that really occurs, and that can be brought about by going to college and being a mess. That can be brought about by having a job, and it's really that hitting those new boundaries, new thresholds that you didn't even know you had. And really, most things can get you there. And I see a potential that I could have hit that staying in Texas if I'd have gone and done something nuts, But it just happened how it happened. One of the things that I've learned now too is that those elements in me that caused me some insecurity, or that caused this person to say that, describe me as kind of a weird little unfinishable, is that those traits are also some of the best things about me. And I'm an incredibly kind of shiny, exuberant person. The existential path was less about doing these activities or going to these specific places. It was more about building self-trust and self-love, encountering relationships, having complex relationships, and growing that inner stability through time, and just letting life take its course. And getting older helps. That definitely helps. But kind of the concept of individuation is so much of this inner work, and we need sometimes the external world to shift, so that way you can encounter yourself in a completely new dynamic as a way to speed up that process sometimes. But I don't see a way that it won't be incredibly messy, embarrassing, and full of those like gut-wrenching rejections. I don't see a way that it won't happen. And I've had some gut-wrenching rejections and some social cringe, and clearly there are people in this world who meet me and I am just a weird little 5'5" baby face lesbian, just with I've got a very, I don't know how to describe my own voice, but it's a bit, I express myself. It is what it is. I'm gonna be that to some people, but it doesn't take away the fact that I like myself and that I really like other people, and I make connections. I don't make connections, and I do. And it's a process that deserves some grace and some kindness. So you take the massive L's with the W's, and it's a whole thing. And I think that is the nature of existential courage. So I wanted to describe that as a way to be generous and just be like, it is what it is, and it takes time, and there's no right way and there's no wrong way. It's just about accepting the L's and being really kind, and despite that, building self-trust and self-love in multiple environments across time. And you do that the hard way. If you didn't already have it, or if you're in an environment that's taking that from you or doing some damage to those things, it takes a while to build that. And you gotta unlearn those judgments about yourself. And again, it's not so black and white and binary. Some of those things that you're embarrassed about or feel are holding you back, or kind of small town, or underdeveloped or delayed, sometimes those are the best, shiniest things too, and they just make you so unique. And we're not made of Legos, so it feels impossible to take out one piece and leave this piece and do it like a weird IKEA structure. And you just gotta be this whole complex system going out into a bigger complex system, and let the climate happen, and let the weather happen, and let it rain and storm and do what it's gonna do. As these things interact complexly, within that complexity, there are going to be those times when you manifest weirdly in front of other people, and they're going to be like, that person's a little weird. It is what it is, So anyway, screw the haters, I guess. And life is awesome. The L's are okay. And there are W's always in the future, right around the corner. So I suppose that's the takeaway from this, is that it's fine. It manifests a little bit weird, it's fine. It doesn't matter, it's part of the game. So, anyways, I will see you very soon in another video, I'm sure. So, I hope that wherever you are, that you have some peace, and that you love yourself, and that you manifest however you need. And if you are going to sleep, then I will wish you a good night. But if not, then good